Welcome everybody to another episode of the A Show. This is your host, Justin Davis, and I'm with my boy, Meelz. What's going on, Meelz?
What's up, man? It is Pi Day. I love pie. I love math. I'm a nerd.
What kind of pie, though?
Okay. So I want to say, well, today I had blueberry pie. It was the only pie they had. I'm a big fan. I like sweet potato pie. I know everybody doesn't like sweet potato pie. I fuck with sweet potato pie.
I fuck with sweet potato pie. Fuck.
Everyone says apple pie is bland. I love apple pie. I mean, I know it's like the most blandest sort of Americana pie of all time. I love apple pie.
I thought that was cherry. I always thought cherry was bland. Cherry's a bland one to me. I always fuck with apple pie, bro.
Apple pie. I had a coconut one or a custard one a few years ago that I didn't hate. Fuck.
But of course, I was leading you to say poontang pie.
Oh,
but,
okay. All right. Well, I do. All right, Dwayne. Okay. All right. Yes, poontang pie. Yes. Shout out to my girlfriend who bought me a shirt today. A big segue. It's the shirt. It's a Dragon Ball Super shirt. So big segue. Next week, Monday, will be the start of a new podcast called The Lookout on RNC Radio. And it'll be everything Dragon Ball related. And this is probably the first podcast where I'm going to give actual details about it. If you're looking for this podcast every week, it will not be every week, but you will get the content that you desire. We're trying to deliver smart content. We're trying to deliver great conversations. Unfortunately, this isn't something I can do weekly for right now, but when the show comes back on, who knows? Because they said Dragon Ball Super is eventually supposed to come back on air, so who knows? But until then, you're going to get the first 5 episodes of the Lookout podcast all next week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, every day a new episode. Every day we're leading up to the finale of Dragon Ball Super and the Tournament of Power. So it should be a good one.
That's like some Netflix shit. That's crazy. How did you manage to do that?
I've been planning in my head for a very long time, and I recorded a couple episodes already. We're gonna have if you know me, and if you know, we're gonna have Jeff on there. We're gonna have my boy Carlos from the Two Bells podcast. He's gonna be on it. We might have Justin one more time. Who knows? So it's gonna be a fun series. I'm glad everyone's excited about it.
I have a lot of things to say about Super as a series as a whole. So I hope that you guys would call on me. You would tag me in, and so to speak, if you play Dragon Ball Fighters, and just bring me into the show. Put me into the King Kai's planet so that I can talk about some shit.
I got you, my friend.
But that's super exciting. Of course, RNC now has a actual Twitter account that just went live today, and we'll be. Everyone follow RNC Radio Live at RNC Radio Live, just like that, and you'll see all the updates for RNC and all of our shows and all of our playlists, and anything that might be coming up from us. So this platform it's grown a lot from November. So when we first started doing this show, and the A Show, of course, was kind of like it in a lot of ways it's telling that it's kind of like the marquee show, and we call it the A Show because it's the baby. It's the first show of the whole thing.
100%, and glad to be part of it. Glad to continue to be doing it. Thank you to everybody who gave great feedback on our 20th episode last week, and great questions and the support and everything close to that. It was amazing to feel that way.
Yeah, I also have to thank everyone for the great feedback on the 20th episode. That episode meant a lot to me and Meelz, and it meant a lot to us just from doing a podcast weekly. And we're not gonna get mushy again on there, but if you haven't checked it out yet, definitely check out episode 20 of the A Show. One of our other shows, if not our best show, but we're going to continue to kill this shit for the next 20 and the next 20 after that, because wrestling never ends, motherfuckers.
100%.
So, just to go into that, let's go right into No Holds Barred in a very kind of subdued week, I will say. Everything is starting to come together with the WWE and all of the other shows with New Japan and stuff like that. Everything is starting to come together as far as Mania weekend, where everything converges on the on WrestleMania weekend in New Orleans, and of course before that you have a New Japan show that will be in Long Beach in 2 weeks from now that I'm really looking forward to, which is going to be really, really dope. But before we get to that, there was an ROH show last weekend. Did you watch it, Meelz?
No. I'm sorry. I haven't watched ROH in a very, very long time. I'm not gonna hold you.
I wasn't. It was the 16th. It was the 16th anniversary show. I was
props to them.
Yeah, I wasn't super in love with the show. I thought it had some really great matches, though. I really did think that the Jay Lethal and Dalton Castle ROH title match was really good. The Young Bucks match with Kazarian and Christopher. I was about to say somebody completely wrong. Christopher Daniels and Kazarian in the Young Bucks match was fucking phenomenal. So I would suggest to watch those two matches. But I think the biggest thing that came out of that show, and I don't know if you've seen the GIF yet, Meelz, was the Young Bucks and the Elite have a bear called Barry, the drug-free bear, that has kind of been like a walking MacGuffin for the past month since it's been introduced. And there was a tremendous segment after Cody's match with Taven, I believe. And it kind of like took over all of the conversation. And I think that's what happens with anything that has to do with the Bullet Club at this point, because they have probably one of the better storylines, in the business right now. But he pushes down Cody and it reveals himself to be Kenny Omega under the bear costume. And the crowd just goes nuts. He gives Cody a V trigger knee, and then what's more interesting is that Brandy, Cody's wife, kisses Kenny afterwards, and they kiss for like maybe 10 seconds, and she says, "You love that. I'm gonna tell your man that you love that." And I guess that's kind of leaning into the rumors that this is a patently homosexual angle.
Yeah. So it looks like it's also leading up to the eventual Supercard of Honor.
Yes.
Which is coming in April. I guess it's WrestleMania weekend?
Yes, it's WrestleMania weekend. It's going to be that Saturday. It's going head to head with NXT.
My God. So it looks like at least one of the main events of that show is going to be Cody versus Kenny Omega.
Yep, and to me, I close the show out on that. I wouldn't close the show out on Dalton Castle and Marty Scurll as the title match for that show, but I wouldn't close it with that. I would close that with Kenny and Cody. I think that has the better storyline. I think it has the best storyline in two different promotions right now. So I would go ahead and do that. But as far as the 16th anniversary show, I would highly recommend you watch those two matches that I just named and catch that angle on YouTube or on Twitter or something like that. The next thing we want to talk about, and I think we'll talk about it now, so as we don't take away from talking about it on Raw, is the WWE has announced the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal, and I was kind of on my way home because I don't watch Raw in real time with everybody because I'm on the West Coast, but I'll catch things on Twitter. But I saw that it was announced, and I know a lot of people had guessed that was going to happen for the women because they were going to get their own equivalent of the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. I really cringed when I saw that this was announced.
So this was something that I thought was I joked that it was gonna happen. I was like, oh, maybe they'll have some sort of Moolah memorial or battle royal or something along those lines. And I was very surprised when it actually happened. But the Fabulous Moolah, it's gotten a lot of backlash, and Twitter and just social media in general they're not shying away from the sort of while WWE brings up the history of Moolah and, record-setting women's champion, was women's champion for decades upon decades, one of the longest reigning champions in wrestling history, definitely it's coming more to light now, and it's just becoming more exposed now of the things that sort of Moolah did during her tenure and did when she was on top of women's wrestling, and really sort of maybe hindered the women's evolution of that time.
Yes. Someone wrote a 6,000 word post on Reddit about this, and obviously we're not going to have time to get into everything that she's done, but it's definitely some very disturbing stuff, and I think that in a time where women and women's rights and equality is the topic of the day, this is going to stand out a lot more than like the Warrior Award or the Susan G. Komen stuff that they do. Like, this is going to be a big deal. I do not think that listen, I don't think they're going to change the name of this thing. I don't think they're going to.
Yeah, I don't think so either. They might not do it again, but I don't know if they're going to change the name. And just the things that you're hinting at, just briefly go over. They talk about Moolah sort of the word being used, was a pimp back in the day for all the other women's wrestlers. Someone who sort of monopolized women's wrestling, and the fact that she trained, or at least was in charge of training a lot of the women wrestlers that came up and demanded a percentage of their booking fees and all these other things. It was just Moolah sort of had a long. You talk about we talk about the Montreal screw job and how that was. You talk about the original screw job back in the WWF days with her and Wendy Richter, and how essentially Wendy Richter was never seen in the WWE again after that night. So it's a lot of history to go back towards. While yes, Moolah was a champion for umpteen years, and she's probably one of the most memorable names in terms of female wrestling when you talk about pre-90s. But man, just the things that she's done, and it's a shame that someone in WWE didn't pick up. It's a shame that it's always has to sort of be the internet who picks up on this and not WWE. And I don't know if they're like clouded by their own judgment or something along those lines, but it's it's just something that came to light.
Yeah, and it sucks. I think in a lot of ways, and WWE's PR, for as much good as they do, or they proclaim to do on all their social accounts, they are really tone deaf at times when it comes to things like this, where you could really just change the name of this thing, or change the actual meaning of it, or explain what you meant by celebrating her. Like, I feel like they mean the kayfabe. I feel like they're kayfabing the fuck out of this thing, where it's like the Warrior War. It's like we are talking about the character, we are not talking about the person. But the line is kind of blurred with Moolah there. It's very deep. Like, Moolah was very much the character and the person itself. Like, she held that title for a
100%.
She was. This is not like. Well, I mean, in a lot of ways, it is like the Warrior thing, but I feel like this is going to get a lot more, attention than anything. And it just kind of feels weird. Like, when you see the WWE, whenever they announce something, they all have all of the performers are set to tweet or talk about it in some way, and you see people like Dakota Kai and like that, like, saying "Hooray, we got it."
Just a battle royal like that, and it's gonna be a shame, because you know what? It's like the winner of that battle royal has to sort of stand and hold up that that trophy of Moolah that sort of immortalizes her and celebrates her and all these other things. And it's kind of bittersweet, because you want someone to receive this opportunity and win this match, but it's like also it's kind of associated with just what Moolah was, and
it's scary.
Yeah,
it's real scary what's going to happen. But the rules of the match are, obviously, because there aren't going to be all of the women available to get into that match, they did say in the actual promotion that every woman from every brand is eligible. So you'll see the NXT women get a payday, which I think is cool. It's a really cool thing.
I think it's cool too. Just to have them on the Mania card, it's amazing. Especially the ones who work towards it, is a great way to introduce some new stars. I mean, we saw that a couple of years ago with Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin's first, main roster appearance was in that Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. He won
before him. Hideo Itami,
yeah. It's just, it's done a lot for the sort of NXT brand, and I think it's gonna continue to do that WrestleMania weekend.
Yeah. The last part I want to talk about on No Holds Barred this week was Hall of Fame and Kid Rock being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Do you give a shit?
No. So here's the thing. No.
I don't care, but I think that the video they did to announce it was so fucking masturbatory and like insane.
It's such a stretch. He couldn't have been in WWE for more than 3 appearances, and 2 of those were at WrestleMania. Or a tribute to the troops or something along those lines. And I guess because is he from New Orleans? Like,
no, he's from Detroit, or he's from Michigan. So it made sense that they waited till they got to Michigan to announce it. But he's actually one of the theme songs for the actual show. but I just think that it is very extreme that they he got a better video package than Goldberg got.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not I think once he gets to the actual Hall of Fame ceremony, I think he won't like the reaction he's getting. Just to be honest with you, it's very rare for a celebrity Hall of Famer to get a reaction, and this is people booed. I think they booed Drew Carey out the building. They definitely booed Donald Trump.
He's also Kid Rock is also a steaming Republican too. So
100%, and I don't know. It doesn't make the ticket seem any better for a Hall of Fame ceremony, and the Hall of Fame ceremony should be a fun night, but it ends up just being a long time of just like sitting and watching and listening to stories and sort of a poor. I don't know. I'm interested to hear what Goldberg has to say. I'm interested to hear. That might be it.
That's it. I don't care about anybody else's. I like the moment of Jeff Jarrett. I don't exactly want to hear anything though.
Yeah. I mean, I would, considering everything he's been through the last year, maybe he'll, shed some light and give a great story or something to those lines. But yeah, it's kind of, I'm not into the class this year. Shout out to Lil JJ though.
Oh man, I'm literally outside of, this is like the worst day for recording. I'm literally outside or inside, and there's construction going on in downtown LA. Like, this is just perfect. This is a perfect day for banging. If you hear banging noises, guys, I'm sorry. Just blame LA for trying to get more money out of people. Do you hear that shit?
I do hear it, but you know what? It's fine. Yeah, I think all the listeners of this podcast know that what we have been through for 20 years of police cars out my building and radiators and people freestyling in the background. So it's I think this will be the least of their worries.
Right. Let's talk about Fastlane or briefly touch on Fastlane, which was a show that was way better than it had any right to be.
Any right to be. The show was so much. It's a shame you have to watch 5 to 6 months of bad television to get to a decent pay-per-view.
And it took us 3 months to get to this pay-per-view.
It took us one. It's so and I'm kind of glad at the changes they made because the initial main event was still Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens versus AJ Styles. Yeah. And while that would have been great, it would have been rehashing the same 8-week thing, and it kind of spruced it up. But overall, I'd say everyone had their working boots on for this show because I don't think any of the matches truly disappointed. And we could probably run through the card real quickly, but they had that great opening match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev.
Yeah, which did big favors for Nakamura and Rusev just as performers and heating them up. I think Nakamura came off really well in that match, and I thought Rusev came off as a monster in that match, and he really needed that to get him straight. And honestly, I was worried about this at first, but the crowd was pretty over for they were pretty much over the moon for both of them. Like both guys were pretty popular, and there was
It's a great match to start the show. I mean, for the people who didn't watch the pre-show, the kickoff match, I think both Rusev and Shinsuke Nakamura are very popular acts, and I don't see why they continue to paint Rusev as a heel. But I mean, it works for the time being, and they had a great match. I think they played off great from one another. It was a lot of counters, a lot of hard hitting. It was a nice 15-minute match.
Right. I think another strong match there. Well, we had a really good beatdown segment with the New Day, Usos, and the Bludgeon Brothers, which really came off well on TV.
About time, too.
Yeah, I think we kind of guessed that the pot was going to boil over at some point, and it did at Fastlane. And I was okay with that happening on the pay-per-view. I'm usually not a fan of big segments happening on pay-per-views like that, but I was fine with it here because it told a really great story, and the beatdown was something that that came off better on pay-per-view than it probably would have on TV.
Now, what do you think about the Charlotte Flair versus Ruby Riott match? Because I am very conflicted on that actual match itself. For one, go ahead. Since I asked you, go ahead.
I like the match. I went 3.5 stars on it. There was some awkwardness at the end, but I think it was Ruby's best match probably in the company period to this point. I think Ruby really got a chance to kind of show that she was more than just these 2-minute matches that they're putting her in. And I thought she came off really well against Charlotte. Now, I know that you probably have a couple issues that you'll probably bring up with her finisher being kicked out of and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think that overall, as a performer, it showed that, there is a lot to this character and that there will be more coming out of this because, this was kind of like the company saying, okay, go out and show us what you can do. And I think that she did that.
I think it was a great showing in terms of just a great showing for a superstar, which I think is great. I think it's great she gets the opportunity to really show that what she can do. I think this might have been one of her longest matches she's had in the company, and it was certainly her most high-profile match that she had. But it just
took a year too. She just debuted on TV a year ago.
But my problem with the match was that the heat for the match, at least, was just lost. I feel like the opportunity for the crowd to get in and truly dig in and hate Ruby Riott. You have the Riott Squad out there, who I feel wasn't utilized enough in the match, and I thought it would have created great heat. It would have drawn attention. It would have drawn that intensity from the crowd to really get into this match, and it probably would have fired both of them up if they got that super, reaction from both. But I think that was just the thing that was lost. And once the referee kicked them out, I was like, there goes the heat and there goes everything else for the match.
Yeah, I thought it was odd that they kicked out Becky and Naomi first, and then was it Becky? It was Becky, right?
Yeah, it was Becky and Naomi.
I too felt as though they should have kept the Riott Squad in there, and it would have made Charlotte look stronger for the in match angle because she overcame all three of them who she's beaten already.
Right. But then we had the post match, which was, my God, it was one of the SmackDown. Yeah, SmackDown doesn't have big moments too often, or at least big moments that are just like, conversation wise. But Asuka showing up on the pay-per-view and just staring Charlotte Flair down, pointing to that WrestleMania sign and saying, "I'm choosing you to face at WrestleMania," was a moment.
Yeah, I know a lot of people kind of joke the pointing at the sign thing, but it gets reaction. It's over. People they hate it. Like, everyone loves the pointing to the sign thing. I think it was a tremendous reaction to Asuka just showing up. She was like, the crowd was super hot for her, and we have been predicting that this was going to happen for a couple of weeks now, and I'm glad they finally pulled the trigger on it. You got to keep Ronda and Asuka away from each other, and this was the perfect table setting for what I do believe will be Asuka and Ronda at SummerSlam. But to make Asuka and put her on that next level, you got to have her go against Charlotte, and you got to have that match at Mania. And I think they're going to tear the house down.
Now, do I don't know if we're going to get into this on SmackDown in terms of just the WrestleMania. I mean, maybe we can get into it on SmackDown because it is coming up. But we also had that main event, that fatal six-way, six-pack challenge, whatever it's called. AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, John Cena, Dolph Ziggler, Baron Corbin, and Sami Zayn. And I thought it was another phenomenal main event too.
Great main event. I think I went like 4 stars on it.
I would have easily, yeah.
I really think all those guys worked hard. Even Baron Corbin got an awesome 3 to 5 minute stretch where he was just killing dudes.
Yeah, and a great flurry.
The story of the Shane and KO and Sami story, which we'll get into on SmackDown, where Shane kind of stopped both of them from winning the match, was a tremendous angle as well. But of course, you had AJ Styles come out on top with the phenomenal forearms to Kevin Owens, and I think it was good that he took the pinfall instead of John Cena. Because you had a really good John Cena angle that was going to come on the next night. Yeah,
you got the great reactions of John Cena. John Cena in his most dramatic role yet as the guy who cannot find a way to WrestleMania and is just he can't fathom it himself. He's sitting there, he's dejected. He just lost his match. He just lost his opportunity at not only the 17th World Championship, but an opportunity to main event WrestleMania, and he doesn't know what to do. And it shows next week on Raw. I mean, everyone says John Cena looks senile. I don't know what everyone else says, but I mean, we can start transitioning into Raw. But I think Fastlane was like you said, a show that was better than it had any right of being. Even the Randy Orton Bobby Roode
Yeah.
match was not bad. Like it's something that
It's
we had
long.
it's something that we had no interest in. It was just like, okay, they're really, you know, kicking it up a notch in this match. And, you know, we called it, but I think it was a good call to put the strap on Randy Orton.
Absolutely. Raw from Monday night was a very odd show. I think it was odd to say the least. In what wasn't there than what was there. I think that it kind of dragged a bit.
Yeah.
Compared to SmackDown yesterday. But we have no Ronda Rousey. Even though a week ago they had announced that she was going to be on every Raw leading up to WrestleMania, they actually took that story down, and it leads right back to her profile page on WWE.com. It had come out from John Pollock at Post Wrestling, shout out to them, that someone told him, a source from WWE told him that they basically preemptively put that post up without it being approved, and that's why they had to take it down, because she was never meant to be on Raw this past week.
Oh my God.
How does that even happen?
I don't know, but it seems like I could imagine how it would happen, but also things have to be approved and things like that. So I don't know how that could happen. But you know, I didn't miss Ronda on, you know, Raw. I think everything that happened last week, I think it's a good cool down. I would have preferred maybe Triple H and Stephanie stepping up on Raw or something along those lines, and, you know, saying where's Ronda or something along those lines. But I think they didn't want to draw attention to it too much. But I thought, you know, it wasn't necessarily bad. We also had the problem where there was no Brock Lesnar on Raw, which led to.
Here's my problem with the Ronda thing is like whatever to me. Like,
yeah,
I never expected it. I thought it would have been a cool thing, but it's kind of like, again, it's kind of hard to frame Ronda as the person that's serious about this when you have Brock. They're playing the storyline with Brock right next to it. Is another big match. How do you feel about the WWE advertising this man to be on the show and him not being there, or them telling you that he's not going to be there?
So here's the thing about it. I feel about it. If it's storyline purposes, I think it's genius, because I think it plays into what a lot of people are thinking already. And it certainly plays into the Roman Reigns, you know, narrative of what he's trying to get out of this match, or trying to incite the crowd to believe, at least. I think Brock Lesnar deciding not to show up for Raw, I think it sort of leans into what people think of him when they read the dirt sheets. It's like, oh, Brock Lesnar has a few months left on his contract. Will he or won't he show up on Raw? He really can go anywhere he wants. I mean, he's on the house shows, but he doesn't want to show up on Raw. What's up with that? Like, I think it plays into the online narrative of what people think on Raw. We had Paul Heyman show up. I think this is premeditated. I don't think they're keeping Brock off Raw. I don't think there's any like, yo, I'm not coming to Raw. I think this is all part of the storyline to make you,
of course,
want Brock Lesnar. But
do the people have to suffer for that? Is my question. Is,
I mean, they got Snickers, right? Did you see the photo? They got their Snicker bars. They got, you know, the WWE is telling them, you're acting like a diva, take a Snickers, and, you know, you suck on that. I don't know what to tell you, but
I can't say it. I'm 50-50 on it. I think it's
no. If Brock Lesnar was announced for Brooklyn and he did not show up to Brooklyn and I wanted to see him, I'd be pretty angry. Yeah,
exactly. And I think the same for Detroit and last week also. But I mean, there's a huge angle that starts to show. Obviously, Kurt Angle says that Brock wasn't going to show up, and Roman Reigns comes out and he says, you know, the tough guy shit. He calls out Vince McMahon and says that Brock is Vince's boy, and he says that, you know, I've traveled all over the world, I bust my ass, I miss family time for this man, but he didn't even have the balls to tell me that Brock wasn't going to be there. And he was like, I don't care if Brock doesn't respect me, but I'm not going to fucking take respect from Vince McMahon.
And I'm gonna walk into Vince McMahon's office and I'm gonna give him a piece of my mind, and Vince McMahon is gonna come out and he's gonna be like, well, come on, this is too
it's too shoot. It's too shoot.
It's too shoot. It's too shoot. It loses its sense of believability and I think credibility at the same time because it makes it so obvious they're trying to play into this sort of narrative, and it makes it too obvious where they're just like, I'm gonna talk to Vince, I'm gonna go back to Gorilla, and we're gonna shoot, thing this out. And I'm like, really? This is what we're doing? I applaud them for. I applaud them for the effort.
It's a cool way of changing the storyline from last time, because I thought that it was just absolutely awful last time.
Yeah.
3 years ago. But I think in this they need to reel it back a little bit, because right. I think you're like, if Brock does decide to stay, you're hurting him as a character if he does decide to stay.
You do this sort of shoot thing, and then you like kayfabe suspend him from the show. So it's kind of drawing the line, it's kind of tiptoeing over both lines or something. But I feel like they did that as a way to sort of continue to keep Roman off of Raw. I mean, all wrestling signs say he's going to just show up anyway. But I think they do it to keep Roman Reigns off of Raw and get Brock Lesnar on Raw to try to keep them apart and build that anticipation so much more, because there's a storm coming when those two eventually get in the ring. And I think WWE wants to 100% capitalize on that.
Right. And I absolutely, agree that they should be keeping these guys apart. But at the same time, I'm not sure that I'm a huge fan of the way that they're trying to make it super shoot, because I'm going to keep it real with you, Chief. The audience still don't like Roman like that.
Yeah.
They just don't. And I think, and I said this, and I've been saying this, like, this is the last year you can try and do this. Like, if it doesn't happen for Roman after this year, you got to try it with somebody else.
100%. I feel like also they're capturing the same narrative. I think they've learned from the initial time Brock Lesnar left WWE and sort of the backlash that came for that. Brock Lesnar leaving all over the headlines and dirt sheets. Brock Lesnar leaving WWE to pursue a career in football. Now it's sort of a similar thing. Brock Lesnar's taking pictures of Dana White, saying this isn't his, he'd love to get back in the UFC ring, blah, blah, blah. So I think they're sort of capitalizing on that. Brock Lesnar looks like someone who just wants to, who's never really a wrestler or never really one of the boys, never really put any effort or thing into his matches, and just wants to, take his money and go home. And I think that's what they're playing off of this time.
I hope it works.
Yeah, I hope it works. I think it will. There's a great air and there's a great creative quality about this lead up to WrestleMania this year. And I don't think anything has been, besides maybe the Shane and Daniel Bryan things, I don't think anything has been sort of bad on these last couple Raws and Smackdowns.
I think that, I think Smackdown just started to build this week. I'll keep it 100. You're counting this week only. So, Vince McMahon, after he kayfabe suspends Roman, after they have this kind of tense moment backstage, which is way too shoot for me. I don't even think this. Yeah,
Shane McMahon is there. We're like, what is going on? Did he just invite Shane McMahon so it seemed shooty? It was like, oh my god, what's Shane McMahon doing on Raw? Blah, blah, blah. You must be a producer or something. Like, I don't know. Maybe he's just sitting there. Who knows?
So he suspends Roman, but then guarantees, and this is a big guarantee because they said it on the commercial for Raw and SmackDown last night, that Brock Lesnar is guaranteed to be on Raw next week, and Ronda Rousey will also be returning to Raw next week. So even though they weren't on the show, the ratings for Raw did really well, and the audience retained the audience to 3 million on the third hour. So I mean, they weren't missing much. And even with Roman off the show in the beginning, it was like you took all the big names off, and you just go with Braun and Finn Balor and Seth Rollins. It seems like they all watched the show anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think they kept a sort of, a loop through the show. They had things to anticipate. One of the major things to anticipate was that trailer for the Ultimate Deletion, which it's apparently is not happening at WrestleMania, which would have been great. But I don't know if they want people staring at a screen for too long at WrestleMania.
Nope. So I think what you'll do is, I thought the trailer was tremendous. Bray Wyatt, of course, accepted the challenge, and we said last week, I believe, that it got filmed a week ago or 2 weeks ago when it will air. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping that we see Jeff Hardy show up in some capacity. In fact, we missed Jeff Hardy getting arrested on Sunday for TWI.
DWI, man. Is it WrestleMania season already? Is Jeff Hardy getting in trouble? Like, I don't,
Didn't he get knocked for like wellness right before Mania one year, like right before
yeah,
like a Money ladder match?
yeah. He was supposed to get in a Money Bank ladder match, and he got knocked for one. They stripped him of the Intercontinental Championship. That was the night they gave it. I think they gave it to Chris Jericho or something. But yeah, he got nixed from that match. So it's a he had no capacity at WrestleMania anyway this year, and I don't think he's gonna be in too much trouble. It didn't, there was one of the Usos a couple weeks ago who got popped for the same thing, and it didn't look like anything really went down.
Nothing really happened. They got little animated bars in their promo, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Are you looking forward to the Ultimate Deletion, or are you like, what are your thoughts on what could come next week from that segment? Which will probably, if TNA is to be believed, this is a segment that will take up multiple segments on the show.
I wish, it'll probably take up multiple segments. I would wish it was just one full thing, but I don't think, again, they don't want the crowd just sort of sitting on their hands for 30 minutes, getting cold, just not doing anything on the show. I think the Ultimate Deletion will be interesting. It'll be a major production considering they now have WWE's budget to do all of this. But I don't know. I don't know. It was great 2 years ago when it initially happened. Was it 2 or 3 years ago?
It was 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago when it happened. It was like capturing, lightning in a bottle. Here is trying to recreate it. The best thing they could do is step away from everything that they did before and maybe try to outdo it. But to sort of lean on the same sort of things will be interesting. But
I think we'll see Sister Abigail finally.
We'll have to see. What does this mean for WrestleMania? That's what I want to know.
I don't think it means anything for them. I think this is their big program. I did originally believe that they were going to be the tag team that challenged the Bar, but it looks like they had to give Braun Strowman that but they gave Braun Strowman that where he won a #1 contender battle royal by himself to challenge for the tag titles, which, I mean, it's cool. I'm cool with that. I've always said, Braun should not be as a face, he should not be the guy that has the belt, because again, you have to make him lose. So if you give him the tag belts, you at least give him an out if he has to lose them, whereas he could get a partner along the way, and then that's how he'll lose it.
I think they're using the same blueprint as Kane for him, man. I really do. Like, this is following the sort of, besides Braun probably not winning the WWE Championship and losing it 24 hours later, I feel like they're following the same blueprint for Kane in his face turn. But we'll have to see. I think it's a great way to draw attention to even the tag team match, because Braun Strowman is a person who will draw eyes, and he's someone who the Bar has not faced yet. In tag team championship action.
They were also partners with him during that TLC match. So if you kind of like look at it from a full circle kind of way, Braun has gotten revenge on every single person who turned on him in that match.
Oh yeah, he's gonna throw him in the trash can and kill him. I'm 100% sure.
They'll get out. I think the biggest angle from Raw this week was Nia Jax's face turn, which kind of weaved into Asuka's departure from Raw, or eventual departure from Raw. This was a long overarching segment that kind of took over most of the second hour of the show into the third, where you had Asuka come out to explain why she was leaving Raw, and you don't really get that explanation until Tuesday, which I understood, and I didn't expect it would happen until then anyway. But Alexa, I have to say, I'm not a fan of Alexa's racist bully heel character. I think it's too cheap. I think that she's been getting by very well as the kind of the bratty and rude heel that she's been playing for the past 2 years. The racist stuff against Asuka's her English speaking ability and the fat shaming with Nia Jax was just a little too much for me on this show.
I agree in a sense, and I agree that it's probably not good to promote that sort of promote that type of hate on WWE television. But I'm not mad at them sort of turning up the dial on Alexa Bliss and how she targets Nia Jax. because I think it's something that you have to do. She's breaking down a giant. She's breaking down someone who's very confident in her abilities. She's the biggest star on. She's the biggest woman on the roster. She's already gone after Asuka and pretty much dismantled Asuka on a few occasions, and it seems like she's heading towards Alexa Bliss next. I'm not mad at sort of Alexa Bliss sort of verbally beginning to dismantle Nia Jax.
It wasn't even to her face. They did this really weird segment where, and I'm glad
backstage, and there's a camera, but they're going over the boom mic. What? That's not how television works.
Because she was set up to have an interview with I believe Charlie Caruso, and
Charlie was late or something because she wasn't there for like 3 minutes.
So like they're just basically talking shit, saying that Nia is as dumb as she is big, and that Nia needs her, and that she's been using Nia, and it's all very convenient.
I would have loved if it was like one of those GTV things, and it ended up being like Asuka holding the camera or something and recording them on what they had to say before she leaves Raw or something, cute or giddy like that. But the explosion of Nia Jax, man, this is something. It's been built great over the last couple of weeks. We got a great emotional segment last week, and now we've seen just the utter snap or utter just breaking of Nia Jax, and now Alexa Bliss.
I don't know if you needed to break Asuka in order to make her a face. I don't know if you needed for her to look like this in order for her to be a better face. I thought I
think they want people to be sympathetic towards her. I think that's really it. I think they want people to connect and be sympathetic towards Nia Jax, and it's hard to be sympathetic.
Her blow up died on camera on Monday. Like no one really reacted to it at all.
Yeah, but I think it's just because how do you react to someone who's just going insane and just throwing things? Like you react to someone getting their ass whooped.
She was pissed.
She was pissed, but she broke. She essentially had this sort of, I don't know if it's not a mental breakdown. I want to say that, all the way to the level, but she had some sort of point where she just realized that she was being played and being embarrassed, and she's between last week's emotional.
She had enough.
Yeah, she had enough. I think the people react to Nia Jax finally getting her hands on Alexa Bliss, which I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon, but Mickie James is probably going to catch, and that's probably why they put her back together. So Mickie James can be Nia Jax fodder for the next 2-3 weeks.
I just feel two ways about it. The way that it was.
Well, I'm an Alexa Bliss fan, yes.
Yeah, I don't think that I don't think it did any of them favors. I think that Alexa just looks like a racist. I don't think the crowd doesn't react, and they do not like they practically, you could hear a pin drop when she starts doing the racist shit. No one likes that shit. It's not defensible at all. I think it's really ridiculous that they continue to have her or write her in that way. I would just love it if she would continue to do the Asuka was scared of me, that's why she left. But that's all she has to say. But with the Nia thing, I'm not sure that really. I'm gonna have to wait and see what happens next week if she eventually does get her hands on Alexa. But the only way this works is if Nia wins at WrestleMania and she beats her in 45 seconds. That's the only way this.
This is the only way this goes. This is the only way it should go, at least. And it shouldn't be a match. It shouldn't be a competitive match. They can save the competitive match for Backlash. I don't know, but it's a match that should not go long, and it's a match that should be defining. We've had women. I'm trying to get that word out of my system. We've had women's matches that have gone this way over the last couple of years. Even you look at Mickie James and the Mickie James thing. You had Ivory versus China at WrestleMania a few years ago, with Ivory just making fun of China. And I remember the segment backstage where she's feigning her neck injury, and Ivory's just making fun of China, and then China comes back and absolutely demolishes Ivory. I think this could be something along those lines and get that sort of reaction as well. I
hope so. And that was pretty much.
Can we talk about John Cena going senile for a second?
Oh shit, that's right. I almost forgot about that shit. John Cena cut a tremendous promo calling
this man
out
is crazy. This man is nuts. This man goes out here. He's drinking beer from fans. He's yelling. He's spitting probably. He's going insane, and he does the big thing, which is he said he wasn't going to do it 3 weeks ago.
Then he does it. He breaks some rule. He breaks some rule that I don't think any of us knew about before he even mentioned that.
That you can't challenge someone for a match and expect them to show up. I don't know, or at least challenge the Undertaker. At least, he challenged
the Undertaker. Basically, calls him out for saying that he essentially isn't showing up because he lost last year, and he hung up his hat and his trench coat and his gloves, and he basically called him out for being like an egotistical, selfish, egotistical person that won't show up because he lost the match at WrestleMania. And I mean,
I think it's like the pot calling the kettle black, because he's trying to get this match because he has nothing to go for WrestleMania, and he wants to feed his own ego because he does not feel like he's at the same place he was, nor is the WWE in the same place it was 5 to 10 years ago when he was on top. So listen,
this is a weird storyline altogether. I really wish it had gone because
it's kind of uncharacteristic for John Cena.
Yeah, and he has to play the heel here, and then we have to buy him as the heel. That's 2.
It's low-key kind of pathetic.
Yeah, where it's like, it's like some Stan shit. It's like I got your number, and you won't answer me, bro. Why don't you answer me, my nigga? Like it's like it's not the best storyline for John Cena, going forward with this and the Undertaker. And I really wish they would have just done what they did with Triple H that one year and just have him come out and they just stare at the sign, and then they nod and then they walk off. That's all you needed to do.
They did mention a couple of weeks ago they really could have done that same thing. Undertaker pretty much showing up and saying, "Keep your name out my mouth when you talk about me," and it could have done that, but you had to do it in John Cena fashion. I'm sure he ad-libbed his way through the entire thing, and it looks
what's the stake? What are the stakes for John Cena Undertaker? Like what are the stakes if either of these guys win or lose?
Respect. I don't know.
Like I feel like I'm not invested in this, which is literally why I forgot about it, because there's no stakes here. I feel like even with the Intercontinental title match with Finn and Seth and Miz, it's kind of like become a competitive thing with Finn and Seth, and where with Miz it's a history thing where it's like he can make history. That's the stakes there. And with Cena, it's like you just want this match. So if you lose, you'll just come back on Raw the next night and be like, well, guys, I got to pick myself back up again. And then Undertaker will disappear for a year or until the greatest Rumble ever in India in a couple months. Like there's just no stakes there. There's nothing believable there for me for either of these guys to even wrestle each other. So I just can't get into it.
It's an excuse for Taker to get back in shape like he does every March.
I mean, even Cena called out Undertaker doing workout videos on his wife's Instagram, and I was like, okay.
Listen, it's classic Cena third wall break. He uses that to his advantage because he's John Cena and he's not supposed to be doing that. Like it is, he's supposed to be the biggest guy in the company. He's not the guy supposed to be breaking the third wall or something like that. I'd be interested to see what happens if he walked up to CM Punk again. But yeah, I mean that was one of the biggest moments on Raw as well.
Pretty much, but yeah. Again, Raw was I thought it was a solid show. I wasn't in love with it, but I did feel that it dragged. But on to SmackDown, which I thought was actually a pretty solid show, a pretty good show rather.
They're back on track, baby. Come on, they're back on track.
They have a direction. I'm pretty sure after SmackDown or after WrestleMania, like it's going to be very different.
It's all down the toilet. It's all down the toilet.
The WrestleMania card on SmackDown has already, or is rather starting to take shape with a lot of the top programs already kind of breaking down and becoming clearer. You had Shane and KO and Sami in a huge segment at the end of the night where Shane announced, which is, again...
What?
Okay.
That's what I said. I was like, what? I literally audibly said,
so Shane,
what?
Shane announced he's taking a leave of absence from SmackDown Live.
4 weeks before WrestleMania.
Which to me, and here, let's be clear here, like, what are the outcomes of these matches? So you could potentially have a 3-way match with Shane, KO, and Sami because they all hate each other and you could have Daniel Bryan as a guest referee, right? That's one of the directions you can take, right?
I guess, yeah, it's an option.
You could have a tag match with Shane and another partner that's not Daniel Bryan versus KO and Sami with Daniel Bryan as the referee. That's another way you could do it. None of these outcomes, and that's the problem, like none of these outcomes are in the least bit satisfying for anyone who's been watching the show for the past 8 months.
I don't agree with any of it. I think it's just weird, man. It's just really weird. I like the segment because essentially Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, who should be the face in this entire thing, get their Shane McMahon finally gets his comeuppance or whatever it is. Like he finally gets beat down for like the past 8 months of just running them down, and maybe it should have been something that they did maybe 5 weeks ago instead of waiting 16 weeks to finally carry out this plan. But they already wrote him off the show. I didn't really see the need for the beatdown unless they're leading towards something at WrestleMania.
He'll be back in a week. He'll be back in a week like nothing ever fucking happened, and that's the issue.
You said at 100% health points.
Yeah, so he'll be completely back. He might have a Band-Aid on his face or something. So they beat him down, and I guess throughout the whole show on SmackDown, it's showing that Sami and KO are completely they hate each other again, but they're still partners again. It's like they're kind of like frenemies. And I think they hate
Shane McMahon more than they hate each other.
They hate each other.
And it's because of that main event where he cost both of them the championship and then walked past them and has sort of, continued to like make a mockery of them as stars and continue to ruin their lives, that they, initiated this beatdown. This beatdown should have came a lot sooner. But, it would have been nice if it came sooner and Shane McMahon, runs in at Fastlane, and maybe you build something towards that. But it is what it is.
They've booked themselves into a corner here where there is nothing that could end the storyline in a satisfying manner.
Yeah, in a satisfying. Yeah, there's no satisfying way to end this.
And I hope that Mania is the main blow off, and I hope that all of these guys go to different things or go to different shows. I know that it's I've never had a problem with Sami and KO being on the same show. Mm-hmm. I think it's time for them to break up like for a very long time after this. I think that we've run its course. I think we've done every type of storyline we could with them.
I agree.
Another top program that's taking shape is Asuka and Charlotte, and they finally had their face off on SmackDown. Pretty cool segment. I think that segment kind of mirrored the AJ and Nakamura segment, but the Nakamura AJ thing had a little bit more meat, so to speak, to it. But you had Asuka basically saying that, or rather Charlotte came out and said that she wanted to meet Asuka face to face, and that she knew that Asuka hadn't faced anyone like her, and that she hadn't faced anyone like Asuka, and she just wanted to know who was going to bow down. Asuka said, "I'm the Empress. I don't bow down to anybody, and nobody's ready for Asuka." And that was it. I think this match, just like with the AJ Nakamura match, it sells itself. You don't need much. I don't really know what people like. I saw some people saying like, I've seen a couple people say like, they're not doing enough for either program. I'm like, these matches literally
it just started.
Yeah, I'm like, if you put this match on a card,
it'll sell itself.
There was exactly. I'm going to that match. It's the same way indie cards do. Like I'm going to this match. You've got the ticket already.
There's going to be hard hitting. There's going to be athleticism. There's probably going to be two ridiculous robes coming down. It's all going to be there. Charlotte and Asuka is a match that, if there wasn't as many high caliber matches, could main event a pay-per-view, could main event WrestleMania.
I would have loved it if it did main event WrestleMania, like dead ass. Like I think that's a worthy match to main event the show if you're gonna go with Asuka's title win, because you have two WrestleMania winners two Royal Rumble winners on the match. So like someone's gotta close the show out, Yeah. But the only issue I have with it is that the approaches to foreign and Asuka are very, very they're not troublesome. I think they're worrying because they haven't quite found a common ground on these two where you can't really understand everything that they say. You get the main thing, and luckily like they keep their promos short, but you can tell that there is a barrier of understanding with some of these crowds where they're just literally like, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of it was more noticeable with Nakamura's promo than Asuka's because I think she had less to say than he did last night. But and as a whole, do you think that these two need mouthpieces, or do they just need to? Should they just not speak at all, or should they just speak in their foreign tongue?
I think Nakamura is a lot more capable of speaking fluid English than we have to play. I don't know. I feel like he not fluid English, like fluid English, but I think they don't need to book him they don't need to write for him every 3 words. You know what I'm saying? I think the pacing for both of them are done on purpose. I don't think they're talking like that. No one talks like that in real life. I think they're doing this just for the showmanship of it all. But I think I think they just need to kind of just, I don't know, let them talk. They can float in and out through Japanese, whatever, but I think the crowd is probably gonna boo it. It's hard to have, if you're going to have them both as be champions, have them not be able to speak. Even Brock Lesnar, to a point when he became champion, had to begin to speak on his own. So it's gonna be, I don't know if we do a mouthpiece for either one of them. I don't think they necessarily need one, but you know, I think we can start adding more words to their dialect. Like it's the very weirdly paced talking is kind of weird.
Yeah, I think that Asuka has a lot more personality when she speaks to Nakamura. Like Nakamura is more of a body language guy. I don't think he's like always been like, I don't think he has a really strong in this promo. He's more body language, and Asuka's kind of both. I think she's a better promo than he is. But
I think so. I think she's good. I don't think she's, the best, but I think once we get into the real throes of like Asuka and the meat of it all, and when like what she did on NXT when she was just champion forever and she was just laying by the pool side and no one was ready for Asuka. Like it's just that's the Asuka that she gets into and is comfortable with. I think when she's experiencing the bright lights and everything sort of being written for her, and it's not the true Asuka. She also, body language is majorly key with
right.
She delivers promos.
But how did you feel about AJ and Nakamura's their interaction from week 1? We had AJ come out at the top of the show saying, basically, he had a really great promo, I thought, where he talked about, people thought that it was impossible or it was unbelievable that he was going to be in the WWE, he was going to be at WrestleMania, and he'd even get the title, but it wasn't impossible. And I think that his story, to me, is the most, really the most relatable to everybody, of everyone on the card, because he was somebody that we never thought he'd come to the WWE ever.
I feel like they phoned in those words for the package, the video package. That's immediately what I think of. When I think that, I see the beginning of the video package. They never thought that we were supposed to be here. Pictures of, Pro Wrestling Illustrated in Japan or blah, 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 ROH, all this other stuff. But I think it's going to be, the first interaction is good. I'm interested to see how conflict comes along in this.
Yeah, and of course you had a match with AJ and Rusev on SmackDown as well that ended in Aiden English coming in and basically causing the DQ. But you also saw signs of Nakamura being really reluctant to help AJ out, and then he eventually helps AJ out. It's turning into like a one-upsmanship type of a program where you have, and it's the same. You could really mirror Charlotte and Asuka and AJ and Nakamura is really kind of like the same program, but with different genders. And I think that's fine. I really think you need to have these types of programs. They don't have a lot of like rah and bullshit with them. And that's why I'm okay with it. And I'm okay with week 1. Like, again, you don't have to sell me on this match. Anything they do extra, the fact that this match is happening is incredible in itself. So anything they add to that, it can't take away from the fact, like, and I said this on Twitter, like, you could give these guys 9 minutes. The fact that it happened, it doesn't matter. Like it's the fact that this match fucking happened is still insane in itself.
Right. 100%. I agree.
One thing that was out on SmackDown, there was no Riot Squad on SmackDown.
It's WrestleMania season. I'll just leave it like that.
They are shooting for the fabulous pimp.
Just 20 of Moolah's finest. No, I'm kidding. This is why it can't happen. This is why it shouldn't happen.
Exactly. But I think more programs as we go forward on SmackDown. I think we're going to see the three-way tag match with the Usos, New Day, and the Bludgeon Brothers. We had a really tremendous Big E and Jimmy Uso segment on the show where
I thought it was so good, man.
Yeah, they were excellent on the mic, and even excellent selling for the Bludgeon Brothers. I think the Bludgeon Brothers are like you're fucking afraid of them. I think they are finally hitting their stride as the team that they were always meant to be on this show. And it's so crazy to see that like Braun Strowman and Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, like how they look, and then how Bray Wyatt looks. It's so crazy to see that now.
It's I'm a fan of the YouTube views. Big E and Jimmy Uso versus the Bludgeon Brothers has the most views of anything on SmackDown, which is weird. But I also think it was a very enticing, and it's a very creative way to do things. I think WWE doesn't do, it's sort of the common enemy and sort of facing that and realizing that, they don't have their brothers. Jay Uso is out. Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston are out. The only two that are left are Big E and Jimmy Uso, and they have to try to team together to sort of get rid of the Bludgeon Brothers, but they can't because they're not actually a team. Those two aren't teams. And the Bludgeon Brothers, a team, they're a formidable force. They've been somebody on SmackDown for the last 6 months who has dominated as a team. They've learned how to work together. And it's really going to take the full power of the New Day and the full power of the Usos to really get this across. And I think we're going to see that, and it's going to be a great segment, in these next couple of weeks.
And then you have, and I can't wait to see that either. But you also have the three-way between Jinder Mahal, Bobby Roode, and Randy Orton that is on the fucking horizon. How do you feel about that?
I think Randy Orton really likes Jinder Mahal to the point where he brings him up to his all. He's like, listen, we got to give this guy a chance. What are we doing with Jinder?
I can't be racist. I'm friends with Jinder.
Right, 100%. But I think it'll be fair. I think it's a great WrestleMania moment for Bobby Roode, who's essentially the last 15 years of his career has been leading up to this moment. I think Jinder Mahal.
The last 15 years of his career has been leading up to the WrestleMania pre-show. Wow,
that is funny, because it might be on the pre-show. But it's Jinder Mahal, who's essentially the culmination of the last year, is also leading up to this moment. Randy Orton, who's just, I guess, a star or something along those lines. Yeah. It should be a good pre-show match.
Yeah, but
2-hour kickoff.
That was SmackDown. Let's get into a little bit of feedback from some of our homies on Twitter. The first piece of feedback we have is from.
Wait, can I say one thing before we do the feedback?
Go ahead.
I did the A-Show poll this week. I talked about which NXT superstars would you be most excited to see called up after WrestleMania? An overwhelming 53% said Cien Almas. Cien Almas, Zelina Vega, possibly called up. Also in this was Authors of Pain, Ember Moon, and Sanity. But it looks like Cien Almas is the clear winner. And
who's like the clear loser? Who's the clear loser?
Ember Moon, 5%.
Wow.
Yeah. So
she has a long way to go. She has a very long way to go before
she has a long way to go. People are excited for Cien Almas. I think second place was Authors of Pain, 14% Sanity. I think Sanity may or may not sink or swim on their show, but we'll see.
I don't know. I think that Sanity is more of a SmackDown gimmick than a Raw gimmick, and I think if you put Sanity against the Bludgeon Brothers, I think that is the type of wildness that you need going into like those summer pay-per-views where you need a really big gimmick match that a lot of people
agree.
I would put Sanity on SmackDown because I think putting Authors of Pain against the Bludgeon Brothers is something that you should save for Survivor Series and not like a throwaway show in the summertime.
Yeah, 100%. But yes, back to feedback. Sorry we had to do that, but I just want to get that poll across because these polls are going to continue to be coming.
That's big. I like to know what the real fans think. Our first piece of feedback comes from the homie Mad Links on Twitter. Shout out to him. He actually does a lot of stuff for like NXT and he does a lot of like writing and things like that for the Barber's Chair network. Really big fan of a lot of his shit. He said that he felt as though Raw was an A, even though Braun ruined the tag team division. SmackDown was a B. Where the hell is Daniel Bryan? He's excited about Asuka versus Charlotte. And he said that 205 Live, which we'll get to after this, had the best match this week with Cedric and Roddy. Do you feel like Braun ruined the tag team division?
No, I think they ruined the tag team division. I think Braun is just, there was no match between the Bar and any of those teams you would have wanted to see on WrestleMania. Like, right. It's just to the point where it's just like, let's just scrap this and we'll refresh everything after WrestleMania. But I think he's Braun Strowman. What do you want?
The homie I am Ant P on Twitter. What's up, Ant? He said that watching Shane McMahon get his ass beat for 10 minutes and he put hella greater than signs after that.
Jeez, I mean, yeah, man. They killed Shane McMahon. Thank God. I said it. It's like when Poochie died in The Simpsons.
He went to his home planet.
He went to his home planet and everyone cheered. It is literally the same thing.
We also have feedback from Manny Dizla, who said Raw was kind of lit, but Braun needs his own big match for Mania. I think I'm okay with where Braun is right now. I think if you have Braun destroying dudes, then that's a better match to me than having Braun have a competitive 10-minute match that he may or may not lose, or him getting a title that he's going to have to give up in like 2 or 3 months.
I think, just due to the sheer size of Braun, because I remember there's something similar happened to the lines of Ryback where they gave Ryback a big push and then it kind of petered off really, really quickly. But I think just the one-in-a-kind size and what they do for Braun on a weekly basis with everything they give him and the programs they give him and just the large toys, the large bases, and the large, scaffolding.
The grappling hooks.
Yeah, all this stuff. I think what they give him, he'll manage to sustain it. I think Braun is good for right now on WrestleMania. But he could be, I wouldn't have been mad if he was in a bigger match.
The next piece of feedback we have is from it's a damn shame on Twitter. Everything was fine, but nothing felt important or as big as it should have been. Asuka v. Charlotte, Braun being #1 contender, and Shane versus Owens and Zayn. I don't know if I agree with nothing feeling important. I think there are definitely certain matches that feel important. I think Roman and Brock is something that is obviously something that they're pushing very heavily. The Ronda match with Stephanie and Triple H, even though they had nothing about that on Raw this week, I thought because they gave you so much and they've been giving you so much over the past couple of weeks. I think the Intercontinental title match is getting a pretty good push. I mean, a large part of Raw was spent on that match this week and Braun Strowman in itself. And I think on SmackDown, Asuka versus Charlotte, again, like we said, it doesn't need a big push or a big story. I think that story comes after the match.
I think they're pacing everything. I think this is just part of the pacing of the story. It all can't be big things every show, but I think it's part of the pacing of the story. I think just Raw in general was just a mass show. Both shows, were good, but they weren't great. But I think it's just overall part of the pacing, and we'll start getting these moments where programs start to peak. They start to become physical action. Something starts to get relayed, or someone gets betrayed, or something along those lines. I think we'll get there eventually.
I'm cool with respect angles, and I think Asuka versus Charlotte starting as that is fine. And I think AJ and Nakamura starting as that is fine as well. I think, again, like we just said, we're going to get a lot more, but I can't say that like nothing feels important or big. I think that this WrestleMania, the card, to me, I think it's better than last year's card off the top. Mm-hmm. Off top is better than maybe the past two. I think it's the best card since 30. Yeah. And I think if the matches that should be getting time get time, it's going to be a great fucking show. Let's do one more feedback comment from Eric Hallow on Twitter. He said he actually sent us some beats for intro to the show. I gotta send that.
Nice.
Some really cool shit. I gotta send that to you. But shout out to him for that. He said that both shows were okay. The best of either of those was the Seth and Finn match. They should have pulled the trigger on that feud earlier. I think the feud comes out of the Miz match. I know a lot of people think that Miz is going to beat that record. I don't think he will, because it's not like he has to win it's not like it's a record that's about the amount of times or the consecutive amount of times he's had the title. It's about the amount of days. So he could lose the title and win it back, later on in the year, and he could still beat the record at another pay-per-view, like a Survivor Series or something like that. He doesn't necessarily need to win at WrestleMania to solidify that.
Yeah, I agree.
He's also about to have he's also about to have a child, so he might actually be going away for a while after that.
Stay tuned.
Because I think Maurice is due WrestleMania weekend, actually.
That's wild. That's a wild concept to think of. Just to be away, you could be having the Miz, just a regular 4.5 star match, just Miz quality matches, and somewhere
shut the fuck up.
And just Miz a baby just could be being born in that instant. So it'll be a hectic week for Miz.
Yeah, but that was most of the feedback for this week. I want to thank everyone for doing that. And just like with the A-Show polls, we're going to be doing feedback every single week right after SmackDown ends. So make sure that you respond to the tweet that goes up, and we'll make sure to get you on the show. But once again, thanks for everybody who participated this week in feedback. I really like feedback. I like to hear what people have to say.
I agree. I
can't wait till they start attacking you, though. I can't wait for that.
Oh, come on! All right, don't do that.
Now, before we wrap up, did you watch Mixed Match Challenge or 205 Live?
No, because people make me feel like I'm some sort of weirdo who watches this show. So I've just avoided watching the show now because it makes me feel like, why are you watching the show? It's such a weird. I know Charlotte and Bobby Roode won. I don't know how they won. I wasn't interested in the match.
I didn't watch it, but I am interested in next week's matchups because Asuka and Alexa Bliss are facing each other next week on Raw, and they're also facing each other on the Mixed Match Challenge. So you have the opportunity to see Alexa get beat up by Asuka 2 nights in a row. on 2 different shows, but it's going to be Team Little Big of Alexa and Braun Strowman versus The Miz and Asuka. So I think those dogs are winning, Meelz.
I think the dogs will be fine, and I'm still keeping to my promise I will donate to the rescue dogs if The Miz and Asuka win. So I'm keeping my promise. Save them dogs. Come on.
But 205 Live, I only caught the Cedric Alexander and Roderick Strong match, which was a tremendous 15 minutes. I'm glad they gave them the time for that. It was as good as we thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
You didn't like it?
Which one? The Cedric and Roddy?
Yeah.
I thought it was fine. I thought it was not. I don't know if it was classic. I thought the emotional story of it all was good, but I didn't think it was just like. To me, it was cool, but it wasn't like awe-inspiring match. I thought they could have actually went longer. I was surprised they didn't start it like halfway in the show. We had 2 matches before it, but I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was, a great match. I didn't think it was great, but it's not that I thought it was bad either.
I would shudder to say that it was anything lower than a 4 to me. I thought that it started slow. I thought that they even got the crowd invested, and that's something that's been very hard.
Yeah. That was the first time I saw. Well, maybe not the first time, but it was where everyone is into this match, and it's like 11:03 p.m. right now, and everyone is still into this match. So kudos to both guys. Cedric Alexander, who won the match, it looked like it was a very emotional moment. He's going to WrestleMania. Right. He's been waiting for this for months. Imagine if Enzo was still in the company and what his future would have been in an Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal or something. But I think it's a good showing. It's a good showing. It's a good feel-good story. Roderick Strong is tight because he got to go back to NXT. And
Roderick has some unfinished business there, and I always felt as though when I saw the NXT spoilers that are coming up, I knew immediately. I was like, they're not going to have him working double duty of that weekend. So I'm okay with what Roderick has to do, but I do think that Roderick is the next guy to come up, and I think he's going to SmackDown.
I think he should go to the main roster. I don't know if he should be on 205 Live. It's a great way to introduce him to the show, but I think you could go SmackDown with Roderick Strong. Sure. Come on.
For sure. He works his ass off. He busts his ass, and I think that he deserves to be shown in a bigger spotlight. And I think the main roster will definitely give him some interesting matchups with guys that you've never seen before. Like a Chad Gable, Roderick Strong match. Get the fuck out of here.
Easy.
Easily one of the best matches on the show. But yes, we have the one side of the bracket on 205 Live filled out, and that is Cedric Alexander on the first end of the bracket. Next week we have Mustafa Ali versus Drew Gulak in a match that should be really, really good. I think Ali has been showing his ass off in these past couple months on 205 Live, and I do think that we're going to end up with Ali and Cedric, the best friends, going against each other, because I think it's the most CWC thing to do in that situation.
Yeah, it feels like the CWC thing to do. It feels like the CW thing to do. I don't know. It's like it's just. I think I've liked all the promos from Mustafa Ali. I think he does deserve a moment, and I think it's a long time coming. And I'm glad it's happened at WrestleMania because he sorely deserved it. The man has worked hard, and he's done it consistently for a very long time on that main roster. I think it's being undersung. Mainly because of the Enzo things and mainly because of the Neville things. But I feel like now it's a true opportunity for the roster. It's back to sort of what it was before they brought on those big main roster stars of Enzo and Neville. And it's truly like, all right, the best guy on the roster wins the match. And he shows the people why he's champion instead of we need a champion to carry the brand and attract eyes.
Right. So yeah, that is the week in wrestling this week. Thanks for listening to the A Show, episode 21. But make sure that you, once again, follow RNC Radio Live for all of the recent updates and playlists. We have a huge playlist, and I talked about this on the RNC Radio show as well. Like, that Bow Wow playlist is just mental. I've never seen anything like it before.
Yeah, I think it's got to be the most successful playlist of all time.
Yeah.
It's gotta be. I don't know what else is. I don't know. Name it on unless you're talking about Drake's More Life. We might be a strong number 2. Like,
strong. At least number 2, number 3.
Yeah, it's got to be one of the most successful playlists of all time. It's just, it was monster seeing everyone sort of retweet it, refeel the moments they had for Bow Wow in their youth. And, just ignore everything that's been going on with Shad Moss for the last 5 years and say, you know what? This kid is all right. So I shout out to everyone who listened, shout out to everyone who played, shout out to everyone who clicked, shout out to everything. It's our most successful playlist as of yet, and we'll be coming out with more. We did Quavious Maximus earlier this week, the best of Quavo. More than likely soon you'll see that Takeoff. For everyone who's been saying Takeoff is the best Migo, more than likely you'll see that playlist. It may be coming next month. Since we did Offset last month, we did Quavo this month. We might just do Takeoff next month.
Hopefully he comes out with 10 more solo songs before then.
Easily, because it's gonna be. You listen, it's gonna be hard.
It's gonna look like a Migos mixtape. I'll tell you that. Right now, it's gonna look like a Migos mixtape. That's everything that's going on with RNC this week. We also have RSBN coming out day and date with this show. It's their March Madness edition of the show, which is gonna be crazy. They have so many fucking guests. They have more guests than we've ever had on this show, and that's gonna be crazy. So shout out to Jeff and Mark for that. But until next time, guys, we'll see you next week, and hopefully we'll have more of the WrestleMania card built out, and we'll be able to figure out if WWE is going to do anything with the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal. So until next time, guys, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Happy Rusev Day.